You can see they go all the way along, like a lollipop. But it's strange because it doesn't make the sign more visible. The UK doesn't really have that because it's too cold. If you have an open-face design like that, the people will just freeze. I started this Hong Kong estates project around 5 years ago. Since then, I've visited over 100 estates, every housing estate built before 1990, and I'm continuing to do so. I guess I first noticed Hong Kong estates when I took a bus to Aberdeen, and the bus passed through华富estate. And at the time I didn't know what that building was that I passed through. It was just a kind of building with very tall open corridors along both sides of the road. Later on I found out that it was a housing estate, and so I went to check it out just to have a look around. And then I found that it was much more interesting than I anticipated. And the journey kind of began from there.
嚟自倫敦嘅Iain13年前嚟到香港，揾到一份幼稚園老師嘅工作，教小朋友英文同埋藝術等。佢特別中意香港嘅公屋，有時佢收工之後會到附近嘅屋邨影相，放假更加會專程去到唔同嘅屋邨。佢中意公屋嘅程度，甚至編咗10大屋邨推介榜。
I have a spreadsheet on my computer of all the estates in Hong Kong by date. I was kind of tackling the estates in chronological order. So I got a list of all the estates and I was going through them one by one. So normally I just walk around. I don't really have any particular direction. I tend to explore the whole estate to start with. And then if there's something that really caught my eye or something that I think has more potential, I'll go back and shoot it.
望下Iain啲相都有啲似已故德國攝影師 Michael Wolff 嘅風格喎。
I think because the density is the thing that strikes you the most at first. But then after a while I began to notice some other details. Perhaps the design of the breeze blocks on the building or even the texture on the walls. There's a lot of small details.
呢一次Iain就帶我哋去到推介榜第1名嘅愛民邨，唔知佢會喺嗰度發現啲乜嘢嘅特別細節呢？
The UK doesn't really have that because it's too cold. If you have an open-face design like that, the people will just freeze. So it's all enclosed. In the UK, the blocks are very contained. This is one of the key elements of Hong Kong estates, is the laundry hanging out. Yeah, hanging them in the window like that. You see it everywhere. It's like a kind of blurring between the private and the public space. The piece of material that's hanging over the doors, you know, it's only quite small, but it gives a little bit more privacy, but also allows for ventilation. And also means if the neighbours are passing by, it kind of creates a way for the neighbours to interact with each other. I think so. It's just a way of using like every available space, right? So it's particular to people that live in a very tight space. They can use every single available nook and cranny to put things in. This is like an extreme version. But in the new estates, because the design is totally different, you don't see that anymore. So it's something that's been lost in the new design. A lot of the estates were built around the same time, especially in the 1950s and 1960s. So they share a kind of common design language, which is like modernism, which was with the use of materials and the very clean lines, the lack of excessive decoration. But the scale of the buildings was smaller. So more often than not, you'd have a group of blocks, but not to the density and to the extent that they did in Hong Kong.
咁樣係因為香港一條屋邨嘅人口隨時等於英國一個小鎮。不過香港都唔係每條屋邨都咁大㗎。Iain之後就帶我哋去睇下曾經係全香港規模最細嘅屋邨。
This is Maytung Estate. It was the smallest housing estate when it was built in the mid-70s. Originally it was on the corner of the block here. You can see in old photos there's the 6th, but it's been removed like, quite a while ago, I guess.
美東邨其中2座原定11月就會清拆，但係因為疫情延遲到出年年初。
And they were very ambitious estates. They tried to create a whole society. Estates nowadays are more about efficiency. So they want to build as quickly as possible for as cheaply as possible to house as many people as possible. The type of buildings that they build, very uninspiring. They're more like engineering projects than architecture projects.
原來香港200幾條公共屋邨為超過200萬人口提供居所，喺住屋上扮演住一個重要嘅角色。
Perhaps it's somewhat overlooked by people that live in Hong Kong or even that live in the estate because they're used to it. It's quite special. Even in the world, there aren't many estates of this scale with this much ambition. Yeah, I think it's a loss. And that's one of the reasons that I've been so active in trying to kind of capture them and take photos while I can, like while they're still here. Because there's always a threat of redevelopment. Hong Kong is always changing, is always redeveloping, so yeah, nothing lasts forever.
You want to live in?
I would like to, but I can't. I'm not eligible. Because my apartment is probably not much bigger than the public housing estate, but my rent is way, way, way more. I mean, it is a struggle, especially I've just had a baby recently, and the amount of equipment that a baby needs. So I'm constantly like squeezing in to different places. Although the space is limited, there are a lot of benefits as well, and that it's very convenient to live in Hong Kong. The public transport is excellent, but it's a positive in that everything is close together. So it depends how you think about it. I think I can deal with the limited space. Yeah, I would love to continue living in Hong Kong as long as I can.
各位讀者你好，我哋有事請你哋幫忙，因為《蘋果日報》嗰個經營實在困難嚇，請你哋多多支持訂閱。